Hey, Editor Zach, that video was made before the patch notes came out. Well, this video, you're watching it right now. It was made before patch notes came out, and I hadn't seen them yet. So I want to address those real quick, because it's like elephant in the room, and people are going to point their fingers and say it. And they do not change my opinions on this season. The patch notes that have released do not change my opinions on this season, and I'm going to pull them up if possible just to talk about them. First off, the Hawkeye one is stupid, right? I've said it for a while. The problem with Hawkeye is not his headshot. It is finicky, it is not the easiest to do, and it does take skill. It is inconsistent, and therefore, that is not the issue. Genuinely, that's not the issue. They just reduced all of his damage as a whole. Now he might not be able to... I saw someone say he might not be able to one-shot at max range. That's not good. That's not good for the character. He needs to have that one-shot. They need to put a range on it so that way he doesn't one-shot at any range like they did for Hela. Hela is insanely good nerf, right? The problem with Hela wasn't that, oh, Hela can 2-tap. It's Hela can 2-tap at any range. Now, Hela has to be within 18 meters of you, roughly, in order to 2-tap a support. And that's pretty good. You can, now Hela has to engage in the fight and can't just sit behind safety and poke the entire time and get rewarded for it. That's good. Hawkeye needs to have that same sort of range thing, but they didn't need to nerf the headshot damage. Keep the headshot damage where it is. Nerf body shot damage. And I know that means adjusting the critical hit multiplier and changing his base damage, right? But all they did was change the base damage. Now he's not going to be played. Because after Season 0 and Season 1, when they nerfed him, when he was goated, he just wasn't played. Because if you can't do the one-shot headshots, there's no point, right? But it's stupid for Hawkeye to be able to do a Widow headshot damage with a body shot. That's dumb, right? They just need to, half his body shot and keep the headshots the same. That's my opinion. 300 damage headshot, that's fine. It's finicky. It takes skill. You're not going to hit it all the time. And, even on tanks, you can't hit that all the time. Especially with them moving around and strafing. Maybe they're jumping or putting up shields or using util. The Elsa Bloodstone, great nerfs to the ultimate, does not fix most of the character, where her base kit is also just overpowered, where you can just poke from nearly any range because there's damn near no spread and there's damn near no fall off damage, that her dash hitboxes are super forgiving, that her instinct is super forgiving, right? Doesn't fix any of that, but at least the ult got nerfed. It's a step in the right direction. Gambit, they're really thinking, but they don't know what to do. See, the problem with Gambit wasn't that he had too much health. It's not that he had too much damage. It's that he didn't have to commit, right? If Gambit can do damage and healing and self-heal and movement all at the same time, there is no reason not to play him. The problem is that other people, like Luna's a good option, because Luna has to commit. I complain all the time about Luna's insane amount of damage that she does. It's damn near a 3-tap, I think, on a headshot. Without fall-off damage, but without fall-off, it's damn near a 3-tap headshot. And it's a 4-tap to body shot, which is a lot of damage. It's pretty good, especially for someone who does that much healing and has an immortality ultimate. But at least with Luna, you have to choose, right? Because when you use your claps and you don't have to choose, the damage drops. You don't do as much damage. So at least with Luna, you have to choose. But when I play Gambit, the damage boost isn't strong because, oh, it's such a high damage boost. No, the damage boost is because it lasts for so long, and you don't have to commit to doing damage. I can and have toggled damage boost, scared off a diver by doing a lot of damage, turn my attention back to my tank, heal them up, and spare cards while I'm keeping them topped off, do frontline damage. Right before it's going to end, you pop your F again, which does anti to the enemy front line, and then you are only down 1 card. After all of that, you're down 1 card. You healed as if you didn't have damage boost on. You had damage boost on, And you got anti-heal off for one card over a duration, and you didn't have to fully commit to anything. Right? That's the problem. It's not that his damage boost was too high. But you know what? At least they're thinking about it, so that's fine. But yeah, these patch notes I do think are a step in the right direction for most heroes. This video is going to come out on Wednesday because they didn't change my opinions. I still think the season's this way. I've played today already because I'm an addict, and I still feel the same way, so I might just go back to my Divinity and Baldur's Gate addiction. That's pretty much it. Let's get back into the video where I talk about about what I feel about this season. Okay, so as I've seen the Marvel Rivals dev try to balance and balance and balance over and over again, the more I think, stop. Just stop trying. Reset everything, and then try to learn how to balance it. Because it feels like they are scared to make any tangible nerf. Because if you nerf a character too much, then the people, they'll start crying about it, and they don't want people to be mad at them. Well, that's gonna happen. People are going to be mad at you whether you nerf or don't nerf, or if you buff or if you don't buff. And so by not doing any of that stuff, you're just making the game worse. The people who will cry will probably still play the game. I mean, there's people who played Hulk religiously even when he was bad. They still play Black Panther religiously, and there's people who played Adam. Even Adam's, I don't think Adam's that bad, but I still don't think he needs buffs, and there's people who still play him religiously. Like, they're still going to play the game, right? I've written down a cohesive list of, like, my problems with a lot of the nerfs, right? So here's what we're gonna go. I think they need to nerf every single character and start over, because they are afraid to make any nerfs. That's what it feels like. They're afraid to make any tangible nerfs. I think characters are power crept out of the wazoo, and that's not because, like, oh, they just keep buffing the strong ones. It's because they don't want to nerf. All around this, I don't want to nerf anyone. And even when they do deliver nerfs, it's like a tiny slap on the wrist. Oh, 400 more healing to get your ult charge when you're already dishing out 50,000 healing a match on average. Crazy work. And that's just, like, why would you... Sorry, Okay. And they don't want to nerf because people are power crept because they don't want to nerf. And because they don't want to nerf, they instead buff other people to try and compensate for it. They don't want to make any tangible nerfs. They don't want to nerf invis, so they increased the cooldown by 2 seconds. Like, that's going to stop the problems with invis. And instead, they buff the other characters. Like, they buffed Venom. Venom's already good. Venom didn't need another buff, right? They buffed the ult cost of... Well, they lowered the ult cost, which is a buff, to Star-Lord, Wolverine, and Punisher. And the Psylocke buff and nerf, quote-unquote, people are like, oh, they nerfed her ult and then made a meaningless change to her primary. That change, I don't think, is too meaningless, because you get your ult faster. Less fall-off damage means that when you're poking, they turn into an ult farm bot where you just poke at the team, then dash in an ult, poke at the team, dash in an ult, and now that you have less fall-off, it means you're doing more damage. If you do more damage, when you poke, you get ult faster, which means you ult more often. They, in a roundabout way, slightly decreased her ult charge cost, because she doesn't have to do as much, and even if you play... because the ult charge is over that time the closer you are, and so, like, by lowering it, the amount of fall off that she has, she increases the damage. And then on that balancing around the ults, the way that they're balancing around these ultimates by lowering the charge and just making ultimates so frequent, because they don't want to nerf people, which means, oh, how do we get around these support ults? Well, we'll just make DPS ults so common that you can't save a support ultimate for it. That's not fun. That's not fun. It's not fun to play against a Moon Knight who has ults every single fight, or every 1.5 fights he has ult. And now Star-Lord's going to have his ult nearly every fight. Wolverine's going to have his ult nearly every fight. Punisher already farmed his ult super fast, especially when you're if he's on the enemy team, if your team's healing output was super high, he farmed his ult super fast. Like, because he just beams people down, then they get healed, and then he beams someone else, and while they're getting healed, he switches targets again. And that's not fun to play against Punisher ult every 1.5 fights. It's not fun to have that much, like, ultimates in the game. They don't feel like a power spike where, oh, I'm going to use this super strong ability, but it can be countered, so I have to like wait for the good opportunity. Like, I can barely strange ult anymore with the amount of abilities or just things in general to shut it down. By the time I get strange ult, Punisher already has his ultimate, which means if I go to ult and I try to hit both DPS and a support, or 2 supports and a DPS, I just hear Judge, Jury, Executioner, and then I'm dead. Because I can't do anything like that while I'm in the ult transformation. He doesn't get stunned, and then he tears through me, and then he starts tearing through my team because the DPS ults are strong. Like, I don't think Punisher's ult needs nerfed. I think Psylocke's ult is fine at the 160. I have actually, don't quote me on that. Haven't played against a Psylocke since Season 6 started, funny enough. I don't think Star-Lord's ult needs nerfed that much. I don't think Moon Knight's ult needs nerfed. But the problem is you have it so frequently. And when you can use that to damn near guarantee a kill. It's so rare that I see Star-Lord ult and nobody dies. And, well, if Star-Lord ults and no support ult goes off, nobody dies. If Moon Knight ults and no support ults, it's very rare that I see somebody die. I mean, it's very rare that nobody dies to a Moon Knight ult unless you use a support ult. And even then, people tend to get burst through. Like, so you almost damn near guaranteed a kill with DPS ultimates. Or, at the very least, you're guaranteed positioning. Because Moon Knight can use his ult, cut off the tanks from their supports, place it down, tanks are on one side. Unless you're going to back up through the entire Moon Knight ult and hope your supports can keep you alive through it, you're going to die. You have to stay on the other side of the Moon Knight ult, and you're going to die for it. And that gives their team so much good positioning. You can use Star-Lord ult to force people to run away from him, give your team better positioning. At the very least, they give your team very good positioning. Because Punisher ult makes them back away too. You can't just stand out next to a Punisher ult. You have to run away. That's a reset. That's a reset most. If you don't have a support ult for it, you have to go around corners, reset, and don't get hit. If he can see you, you die. Same thing with a Hawkeye ult. And by balancing it around these ultimates to where you get ultimates so fast, it's just not fun. I don't want to play against Moon Knight ult every fight. If it was every other fight, like a Strange ultimate or like a Mag ultimate, like Mag gets his super fast. Mag and Strange get theirs super fast. Do you know who I don't see using their ult all the time? And everyone uses their ult all the time. I can't think of someone who doesn't have it every fight. And that's annoying. Like, sure, it's fast paced, but it's like not fun. I don't want to go, oh, we lost this game because my supports, by the time that their cloak literally happened last night, their cloak and dagger had ultimate, neither of our supports were even at 60% yet. We had gotten 3 picks, but then they ulted, we didn't have any ultimates, and then we had to back off. That's it. We lost. They had ult. They charged their ultimate faster, and so we lost. That's not fun. To play the game entirely around who has ults is not fun. Right? It's just, what do you want me to do? You just have to not do that. It's terrible. And then we're going to go back to the normal balancing, where they buff other characters to try and compensate for the ones that are too strong because they don't want to nerf. Sorry, it's all over the place today, but I'm just so over it. This season's not even, it doesn't feel fun. It infuriates me when I play. Like, when I lose, it's infuriating, and when I win, it's not even Oh, yes, I won. That was so fun. It's just a sigh of relief. Thank God. Thank God we won that, dude. It was, oh my God. It's just so tiring and even defeating to win sometimes. Uh, Genuinely, I played quick play last night and 18 versus 18 more than I played comp because it was not fun to play competitive. Uh, but they buff other characters to nerf, to like hopefully counteract the other ones, and it creates power creep. And I think the best example of this is Adam. Adam had a cool kit that was, especially with the team up that he had, very fun. You go on an off angle, and you go to an off angle, and you play as like a third. You play as a second DPS if you're playing triple support, and you just sustain yourself. If you're playing with a DPS on an off angle, you sustain yourself and the DPS. You can take a longer route to flank if you want to, but that's more time without your team, because your heals do more if you're alone or with one other person. They get more value, and so that's how you're supposed to play. And you have your team utility with Soul Bond, and you can resurrect yourself, which means when you die, you can get a free reposition, or you can go back to your team to reset. That's a cool gameplay idea. It's a third support that acts as a DPS. But as time went on, why would I play Adam? I can do the same thing on Hela. I can do the same thing on Hawkeye. I can do the same thing on Phoenix. I can do the same thing on Punisher. Almost every hit scan character in the game can do the same thing, has more movement and survivability outside of, like, if more than one person looks at you on their team. Adam's just dying. He doesn't have any way to move or disrupt their attacks. He just has to stand there and hope he can out-heal it. And they do more damage. They have more survivability and util. So why would you ever play Adam? And then they buffed Adam. They buffed him to try and, like, instead of nerfing the characters that are so strong that you wouldn't want to play anyone else, they buffed Adam to try and make him compete in that space. But they didn't want to make him compete in that space, so they would have increased his damage. They wanted him to compete as a support, because everyone wants triple support, but you want triple support for sustain and not triple support for anything else. Where he does not act as a sustain character. He has mass res for util, and mass res on an off angle, which would be incredibly good, but you can't play him that way because you need to heal your entire team all the time. Because if they wanted him to compete in like the second DPS role, they would have increased his damage or given him better util for fights, but they obviously don't want him to. They want him to play as a support, where he stands there and heals his team over and over. Because their buff to him was when you hit a headshot, you take a second off the cooldown. You know what? That one's fine. You know, that promotes skill. So I can even look past that one, because it's promoting skill and rewarding, that's the word. It's rewarding you for having good aim and playing well, picking your targets, hitting headshots. Doesn't change the fact that you still want to hit headshots on Hela and you're going to kill them faster, and that's going to help your team, because if you kill a DPS on Hela, you are essentially healing your team for all the damage that they would have done, if you catch my drift. Because a Punisher firing shots, just for arbitrary numbers, let's say he does 110 damage a second. If he would have lived for 10 seconds, that's 1,100 damage he would have done. But if you kill him in second 2 of the fight, then that's 880 damage that you prevented him from doing. And so you help your team in that way. Adam can't do that because he doesn't kill as fast as Hawkeye or Hela or Phoenix or anyone else, and he doesn't have as much frontline pressure if you need to do frontline pressure. So why would you play Adam, right? So that obviously didn't help, because he still doesn't have the healing to compete with the other supports that you always can't compete with. Loki, Invis, Gambit right now. Can't even compete with Invis. So why would you do that? Well, then his ultimate suffered. Well, his ultimate only spawned you with like 100 health. So, you know what? 30% health, I can get behind that. You know what? Make it more fair for the tanks and make it more balanced so that way people don't just spawn and instantly die. Fine. You know what? I can look past that one. That's a reasonable buff. they didn't really buff him. They just made it reasonable, because if you're a tank and you spawn in, you're just sentenced to death because you don't have a majority of your health. That's fine. But then they buffed his ultimate again by giving you 70% of your health as bonus health. So you spawned in with 100% of your health, and all you need to do is get healed up. And because you heal so much in this game, that doesn't take very long, especially if you're all grouped together and your util works on everybody. Like Gambit throwing a card at everybody. Or Cloak and Dagger Bubble. Or Cloak and Dagger in general, who heals everyone in AoE around who she hits. Or Luna Collapse. Like, or just Invis's primary. So, whatever, that's fine. I don't think that one's necessary. It's not useful. It's just kind of broken. And if you get games with a good Adam, where they do play as a third DPS, and they have mass res every fight because they lowered the cost of his ult multiple times, that's not fun. It's not fun to play against mass res like that. Like, it's whatever. And then they buffed his right click. So when you hit someone with your right click, you get your heals back faster. Well, that's not fun to play against. Why would I ever want to play against that? That's stupid. He's just constantly left click, spam right click, and then he has heals all the time if he's hitting headshots. That doesn't promote skill. It gives him a useless buff that he doesn't need, because that's not the niche he's meant to fit in. If he was meant to fit in that support role, his E wouldn't have would have a cooldown but no charge limit, and like, you just spam it. But it doesn't. It doesn't do that. And so why would you ever buff him to fit in that? They're trying to fit him in this niche that he wasn't supposed to fit in, because they need him to compete with the other supports, but that's not what he was meant to do. You can clearly see it by looking at his kit. And now, most recently, they gave him the flying buff, which I don't think does much. Honestly, I don't think it does much outside of make him look goofy. Like, it's funny, but Adam never really wanted to play on that angle, and his flight, it doesn't benefit him in any way like Phoenix or Hela's dashes and the bird does, because it's clunky like Iron Man, where you're just looking right at them flying around. It's clunky like Iron Man. It's going to suffer in the same ways that Iron Man's extra mobility suffers, and so why would you? It doesn't matter. But that's what I mean when I say they just put a band-aid on it and they say that's going to be good. Let's put a band-aid on it. That's going to be good. Because they put so many bandages on Adam that he is genuinely power crept to hell and back. If you nerf Invis Gambit Loki to the point where they're no longer meta, then I think Adam becomes meta, because he is just so strong with all the buffs that they gave him. Like Venom, they didn't want to nerf the supports, so they wanted to buff something else to get rid of triple support. Well, they gave Namor anti-heal on a 20-second cooldown, as long as you're playing Hela too. So you're playing two of the better characters in the game, and you have anti-heal all the time. That's great. Oh, they also gave Venom's ultimate anti-heal. Venom, who was already good for multiple seasons in a row and never really suffered, now he has anti-heal too. He didn't really need that buff at all, but they gave it to him because they wanted him to have it for some reason, which is insane work to just anti-heal. His AoE is massive. I would rather them increase the AoE than give him anti-heal, but it's to mitigate triple support, and they just they're like, oh, I'm going to put a bandage on it. But the bandage doesn't work, because if everyone's getting anti-healed, it means you need more healing, which means sustain is more prevalent, because you're just going to die instantly and explode without it. With all these DPS ults that are going off now, you're just going to explode without the healing. I don't think this season's very fun. That's pretty much it. I think it's awful. I don't think it's very fun. Elsa Bloodstone's a fun character in concept, but once again, she has a shotgun with very little fall off and very little spread, which means why would you ever play Psylocke when you could just play Elsa? The shotgun's better, you do better damage, you have more dashes and more mobility, you're not punished for dying even with your instinct charges. Your F doesn't even actually need to hit someone. If you guys want, I can show you a video. In the practice range, if you throw it at one of the bots and you're off, once it primes, it'll scoot over a little bit to grab them. They don't even have to walk directly into it, just near it. Oh, all her dashes are super forgiving too, even though they're just like magics, and magics aren't forgiving at all. But no, we're going to keep adding characters like that. Characters where this is a fun character, but it makes like 5 other characters irrelevant. Why would I play them? Genuinely, why would I play them? I could just play other stuff. When I first saw Elsa really revealed, and I saw someone go, "Oh, that's poke slop," and I went, "No, you saw her brawling, you saw her combos. No, it's poke slop. You dash around to keep yourself safe. Maybe if someone gets close, you dash towards them and hit them with a combo, but you're poking. You're poking with your shotgun, you're poking with your elephant gun, you shoot your right click at them so that way you can hit them, makes you faster and harder to hit while you poke them. Like, there's very little reason to dash at somebody, I've found. Haven't played her in competitive, so maybe I'm wrong, but I finished a game with like 30 final hits in quick play. You just poke. Poke and good target priority. Someone stepped in my dash, that held them still. I could dash at them. If I'm far enough away, I'll dash at them just to use the elephant gun, but I'm not fully committing to stand in front of them because very little spread, very little drop-off damage. There's no reason to get close. I'm just gonna poke. It's just better Psylocke. Imagine if Psylocke was like really good, and then the ultimate is insane, and so if you don't ban her, and you don't ban Hela, and you don't ban Sue for the Strange team up, and you don't ban Gambit, and you don't ban Wolverine, you're fucked. You're fucked in the ass because the game's not fun. So many games I've played since the release have come down to who has the better Wolverine, or are they playing Wolverine and I'm not? Because the Phoenix Wolverine team up now is insane. Wolverine was already buffed a few times, and like nobody played him after his buffs because they weren't too inconsequential. Well, they were inconsequential not because they were bad buffs, but because why would you play Wolverine over other characters? Well, now that his ult charge is like one of the lowest in the games, yes, play him. You get his ultimate like every fight. You can use it nearly every fight. Grab a Groot, take him to a corner, and then you just wail on him. That's like 50% ult charge right there. And the fight hasn't even ended. You have an invulnerability passive. I think so many of these characters are well-designed characters. And then you put them in this game, and they either suffer because they're not as good as the other characters, or they super succeed and they never get nerfed. And it's just insane, and it's gotten to the point where I don't know if I have fun. I may not stream the game anymore. Like, I know not many people watch the streams, but if you want to watch the Rivals stream, I might stream this week and just not the rest of the time. Because it's just not fun. Unless I have fun this week, I'm probably not going to... I'll still play it with my friend at night. I'll play it... We might not even play comp. We might just play quick play or something. Quick play or the 18v18 for fun, and then go to a different game at some point. It's just not very fun that everything is so strong. Some games I have a lot of fun. Most of the time, even if it's not miserable, it doesn't have the same level of fun to it because I'm always worried about they're playing Moon Knight. Okay, they're playing this broken character. They're playing this broken character. Can we get on this broken character? No. Okay, so I'm playing Strange for the Sue team up because it's really good. But even with that, I can't stop the Wolverine. My Sue can't stop the Wolverine from hitting me. Wolverine Emma just chains me to the ground, chain stunning me to the point where Wolverine can just have his way with me. Phoenix just has their way with my team when they play it. There's just not much that I've found to do about it, especially in the tank role. And so it is what it is, I guess. But yeah, these are my early thoughts on the season and my overall thoughts on balance. Let me know what you guys think. And see you later. As always, thanks for watching. Wet Willy.